Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's webinar on getting started with Read Theory. I see a bunch of people are still joining us. If you haven't already, please tell us where you're watching from. So far, I've seen Poland and Sweden and Toronto, Georgia, Dakar. So really fantastic to have people from all around the world coming and joining with us today. We're going to get started in just about a minute. I always like to give people a chance to come in before we get started. But thank you, everybody, for greeting us. Barcelona, I see New York, California, Riyadh, Oregon. So really just a wide variety of places. So fantastic. I am located in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So I'm not quite in the middle of the state, but pretty close to the middle of the state and along the east coast of the United States. See New Jersey, Los Angeles, United Arab Emirates. Awesome. Just fantastic to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I will go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us. This is Getting Started with Read Theory. This webinar is designed to give you all the tools you need to be able to get started with your students with Read Theory on day one. So let's go ahead. And I'm a teacher myself, so I always like to have our schedule for the day. So I'm going to introduce myself, Read Theory, and our learning goals. Then I'm going to describe Read Theory and show you various ways to set up your classes. And then we'll end with a Q&A. Please, throughout the entire webinar, if you have a question, type it into the chat. If I feel like it will not derail me too much, I will answer it right in the moment. If it's something not related, I'll go back and answer it a little later on towards the end of the webinar. Just like a teacher, you have to decide when you're willing to accept questions and when you're not. All right, so who am I? My name is Sean Murnion. I am a lifelong educator. I have been working for Read Theory for 5 years, and I have also currently an elementary school gifted education and science teacher. I have worked in high schools, middle schools, elementary schools. I've worked with adults with special needs. I've worked with children with autism, doing behavioral therapy. And so hopefully I can, some of my experiences can connect with your experiences. Hopefully something in my educational background will resonate with you. And hopefully I'll be able to speak to the specifics that you're dealing with in your classroom. So that's me. I got an MAT a long time ago from Duke University and have been working in public schools my entire life. All right, so let's talk about Read Theory. What I would love to do at this point is just to give everybody a quick preview of what Read Theory looks like for students and teachers. And that will hopefully have everything else make a little more sense as we go through. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And we're going to start off today just looking at the student experience for Read Theory. So on the student side, when they log in, they're automatically going to be shown texts that are perfectly aligned to their ability level. As they use the program automatically will adapt to their ability, their demonstrated ability. And so students will see harder or easier questions based on how they're doing in the program at this time. All of our passages are pretty reasonable, somewhere between 100 and 500 words, depending on the level. And they have short, one at a time reading comprehension questions that go along with it. Students gain immediate feedback based on their answers, and they also get explanation for an answer that was incorrect or correct. As they go through, they're able to track their own progress, including goals that teachers set for them, including knowledge points that they'll be earning. This is an incentive, gamifying learning thing, and their ability level. So that's really it on the student side. Everything just appears for them and they can track their own goals and progress, and it adapts to their ability. When we get back to the slides, I will have hopefully the slide be a little bit bigger. Thank you. All right, now on the teacher side, I just want to give everybody a quick preview of what that will look like. So let's go to Demo Teacher. All right, on the teacher side, teachers have the ability to look in depth at individual students or at their entire classes. So I'm going to go ahead and have us look at the Hogwarts Summer School. So by clicking on this progress report here, you can see general broad strokes of how your students are doing, both as a class on tracking their progress, their quizzes that they've taken, their grade level performance. You can also dive deep into the actual like individual, more nitty gritty details there. So this is all just here within the progress report. Okay, so I'm gonna head back to the slideshow now. So hopefully that will make things a little easier for everybody to see now. All right, great. I am not certain on how to shrink the chat section. I apologize. Yeah. So readtheory.org is this website, this program that is available for free for all teachers to use and students to use. And the big pros of it is that it is, an automatic adaptive reading program. Okay. So let's take a look at our learning goals for today. The main things that I want you to do is I want you to be able to set up your classes and student accounts and feel good about working with the program. So the real nitty gritty that I am going to get into today is how to actually just set up student accounts and set up your classes for your students. This is the main thing that you will have to do when you first start using the program. All right. So there are 3 ways to set up classes and student accounts within ReadTheory. There's the class code, the manual input, and the CSV import. Each one of these has their own pros and cons. And I, as an educator, I try to be really honest about the pros and cons of each of the methods. But so I will walk you through each one and tell you honestly, as a teacher, which ways I would prefer and which ways I think you would prefer as an educator. So the very first one I want to show everybody is the class code. The class code is where your students will create their own accounts or they will log in with Google, and then they'll just connect to your teacher account using, I think, a 7 or an 8-digit alphanumeric code that they enter in. And that's really it. They then appear on your teacher platform, on your teacher portal side of everything, and you can just monitor their progress. The big pro on that one is that you don't have to do any data entry. The students just connect to you. And the other big thing is that they can always link any existing accounts that they've already had with you. And so, yes, this is great if you've got students that are, I'd say, probably 5th grade and up as far as technology wise goes. It is really, really easy to do. The con is, of course, that the accounts are going to be whatever the students name the accounts and the information that they put into there. And so the students are going to be in control, which means they're going to be in control of managing their own passwords and usernames. And you're also not going to get any of the uniformity that you might typically get in if you were designing everybody to have common usernames. All right, so I want to actually show you what that looks like on the teacher side again here. So I'm going to share my screen and let's see what that looks like. All right. Now, the very first time that you set up your ReadTheory account, you're actually guided through creating your first class. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after you've done that first class that we guide you through. So from the My Classes page, which is the default teacher page, you're going to go to Add New Class. From there, you get to type in the class name. For this one, I'm going to say this is class 2223. You can select the grade. It is optional to do that. It won't affect the passages they receive. It just helps us to gather data on whom we're serving. And then you can click whether or not your students are below the age of 13 for data privacy reasons. Along with that, there are additional options you can do along the side here for setting up your class, deciding whether or not you want your students to be able to see their grade level score. Can be motivating for some and demotivating for others. So that's an option that you can turn off right there. And then you just click Create Class. Now, once the class is created, you'll be automatically navigated to this new page, your My Class page, and that's where you can see the class code. All you do is you have your students sign up to create new accounts, and entering the class code will be part of the sign up process. If for some reason they miss it, it can always be added. That class code can always be put within the settings page within the student account. And that's really it. That's the class code option. They set up their own accounts. They link to you. Once they link to you, they will appear on your My Classes page and automatically sorted into the appropriate class. So that's pretty fantastic. That, again, if you have students that you can trust, then it is easy peasy. All right, I've gone ahead and zoomed in a little. Hopefully that will make things a little easier for everybody to see. Okay, hopefully that makes things a little better. Sorry. I'll try to keep it like that. Thank you, everybody, for your patience here. All right, so that was the class code side of things. But now I want to walk you through probably the most labor-intensive of your options. The most labor-intensive of your options is the manual input. This is where you have complete control over every aspect of the student account, but it takes time. The good side of this is that it's very easy to troubleshoot because you're the one doing everything. The bad side, of course, is that if you have a large number of students, it'll take you a little bit of time to enter all the information. That is also really straightforward and simple to do, but I am going to walk everybody through it so they get a sense of what we're doing. So let me go ahead. I'm going to share the screen here. All right. So there's a few places that you can do this from, starting from a class page. The My Classes page here is probably where you would find yourself doing it. And you're going to go ahead and create accounts. So you've got your class code over here, which you can share for students who are creating their own, or you can create the accounts yourself right here. Now, creating the accounts is pretty straightforward right here. You're going to enter in the information. So I'm going to say that this is Forrest Gump. And the username is automatically generated by our system, as well as the password, but you do not need to utilize that. You can modify that at any time. So I'm going to say Forest Tree and see if that one is taken in our system. It is not. And I am going to set a password for this student. Once I've entered that first student, I go ahead and add new student. And I continue adding their information. So this one is Jenny Gump. She gets an automatically generated username, password. I want all my students to have the same password. And once I've done that, I go ahead and click Save and Continue. All right, so I go ahead and click Save and Continue. I opted not to make Jenny in this instance. And now this student is right there, automatically created. And the username will appear right there, along with the student's real name right there. Whatever you decide to put in as the student's real name is what will display and be alphabetized by. And you can change whether or not it's sorted by first name or last name right there. So that right there, I would say, is the most like time-consuming option. Also, from just as a quick you can always modify student things like resetting their password right from this My Students page here. So it's very easy for you to manage. And again, their username is always right there for you. Okay. I see here, what's the best way, if any, to add a second teacher to a class so they may also view student progress? This is a great question. I am going to have to get back to you on that. We've made some changes recently, but as far as adding a second teacher, the way that I've always done it when I've used ReadTheory in my class is I actually have the co-teacher set up their own teacher account, set up their own class, and then my students will log in and add that class code from that second teacher. And that way that second teacher has access to all of their data as long as they enter that class code and link in with them. Good question. All right. So that is option number 2. Option number 2. Let's go ahead and bring it back here. So again, the big con on that one is that it takes time. Now, the last of your options is actually the CSV import. This is my favorite. If you're willing to do just a little bit of work in Excel, this can get things done very quickly for you. Basically, what you'd be doing is inputting the information directly into a spreadsheet and then uploading that spreadsheet into our system. Especially if you're using a rostering program or a gradebook program. My school uses PowerSchool, so it's very easy for me to copy and paste all of my students' first and last names, for example. So I'm not doing manual entry on 150 students. Doing the CSV, you are inputting everybody's password. So it's very easy for you to set a standard password or a slight variation password for all your students quickly. This allows you to have consistent formatting. So all of your students are, yellow class student 1 as their username, or yellow class Forest, yellow class Jenny. It makes it very easy for managing those sorts of classroom issues. The other big thing is that this is very easy for our support team to help you with. If for some reason you're having an issue and you've got all the students' information on this spreadsheet, you can just send that spreadsheet over to us and say, I need help creating these accounts. The big con with this is that you have to be proficient in some sort of spreadsheet program or Excel, and you have to be very careful about the details because a small thing wrong in the spreadsheet can make errors appear. So that's the issue there. All right. So I want to go ahead and show you what that looks like, but really quickly, I see Sandra's asked this question: if students set up their own accounts, do we as teachers have access to their usernames and passwords? Great question. You will always have access to their usernames. Their password will be whatever they set it, but you, once they connect to you, have the ability to reset their password. So for security reasons, you won't be sent their password, but you can always just very quickly, 2 clicks, reset their password as needed. So thank you, Sandra. Great question there. All right. I want to go ahead and show everyone this CSV import option. So give me just one sec to share the screen again. All right. All right. Now we've got Forrest Gump here again, but he's not the only student in his class. So we're going to go back to our Add New Student screen. Now you'll see here, we've got the send the code. This is our class code that was always waiting for us right there. So that's always available for you. We've also got the add manually option. So on the add manually option, you can either input their information here, or you can click the import from CSV option. You'll be shown a video explaining how to actually go through that, and you'll be given a sample file right here to download. This sample file will open an Excel spreadsheet that has the main columns that are needed for you to fill out to enter your student information. And then once you've actually downloaded the file, updated the information, that's when you click upload the CSV file and select the file in your system. I want to show you what that CSV file looks like, just so that we're all on exactly the same page here. So let me pull that up and zoom in. All right. So I know I haven't actually pulled it up. Here we go. All right, and that CSV is pretty straightforward. You've got a column for first name, last name, email, username, and password. So you will input the student's first and last names. This is where copy and pasting from rostering sounds great. Email is optional. You input the username, and then you input the password. This is why I love doing this sort of thing via Excel, is that I can quickly just bring this down and make everybody have a standard or near standard password. So that makes it very, very easy to set things up. All right. And again, I'm sorry, I'm doing my best to make it so that everybody can see this particular thing. So I'm sorry, but it is just a standard spreadsheet with 5 columns. The email is optional. If you want your students to be able to log in via Google, but you still want to create their accounts, you will input their email, and you'll make that email address also be their username. I'll go back over that, but I always like to mention it here. Google login works as long as email and username match. Okay, and then you just upload that, and the accounts would automatically be created in our system based on the specifications that you've put in. If there's any issue with a taken username, you'll have a chance to modify it within our interface. Okay, great. Let's go back. All right. So those are the 3 main ways to set up accounts within our system. Again, I love the CSV or the manual because I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I also work with elementary students. But the class code option works really well with older, more independent students. I see somebody has asked the question before I move on, what level will ReadTheory start each student? So the first time a student logs in, they'll take a brief pretest. Very, very brief, should be completed in less than 15 minutes. The starting point for that pretest is set to 3rd grade, but the passages that students are reading are only a few sentences long at that point, as are the questions. And so if a student is at the 1st grade level, they may struggle with it. If they're at the 8th grade level, they may do really well on it, but it very quickly will adapt and adjust based on your performance on that starting pretest. So it starts at the 3rd grade at the pretest, and then adjusts the pretest until it arrives at your actual level. But again, 15 minutes is about what you'd need to give that pretest in class. Great. We will be hosting, you'll get an email of this webinar after the fact. So thank you for signing up. And we'll also be hosting this webinar on our YouTube channel, which will have a link to our PowerPoint presentation there. All right. So let's talk about Google Login. I know a lot of teachers love that their schools are Google schools. So in order to utilize Google Login, it's really, really simple. If your students already have accounts that you created for them because you're a go-getter, it's actually really simple to now change those accounts and make them work for Google Login. So the big thing is, as long as your username is the same as the Google affiliated email that they use for Google Login just works on our site. If a student's already created an account, or you already created an account for them, they can actually just modify this information on the settings in their account. They can go in and change their username, change their email to match, and boom, Google Login will work every time. And so that's a pretty awesome little workaround, even if they have an existing account. All right, great. Great. I see additional questions. I promise I will answer those additional questions, but I would like to just make sure I don't get too far off here. Another common concern is that teachers have students who have used this before. They have an existing account, or their student's email or username comes up as taken. If the students are able to log into their account, have them do that and connect with you via the class code. That is the simplest and easiest solution. But if you run into any issues, our support team is available. All you'll do is there's a little blue icon with like a chat bubble that you can connect to our support staff. They're not there 24/7 for all around the globe, but they respond very quickly in general, and you'll be able to get the help that you need with any particular issues. You can also email them at support@readtheory.org. All right. Now, the last thing that I want to talk to everybody about is a lot of times teachers will say, okay, I set up my accounts. Now what? What do I do? And the simple answer is it really depends what you want Read Theory to look like and be for you and your classroom. At the most basic level, you could just stop and say, okay, great. I've got my students, the classes are set up. They can log in. They can start taking tests. They will automatically see texts that are appropriate to their level. It will automatically adapt based on their performance. It'll automatically generate data for you. All of that is automatic. You don't have to do anything else. But there is more that you can do. And the things that includes will be things like, you can set up a recurring weekly goal so that all students know the expectation is they have to answer 3 quizzes every week on Read Theory. You can set up classroom competitions. We have a whole competition feature, and sometimes we do like global competitions with students all around the world, which is really fun. You can actually go in for some users will have the ability to modify the level of their students. You can assign specific passages to all your students, and you can really dive into analyzing class and student data. There are lots of different ways to get more out of Read Theory. And if you want, you can come join me on Monday. I'm doing another webinar that focuses specifically on those aspects of Read Theory, getting the most out of Read Theory, next Monday at 12 Eastern Daylight Time. So come join, check us out. But at the heart of it, Read Theory is meant to be an adaptive automatic program. So it should take over for you. But there's a lot more that it can do. All right. So just checking in on our learning goals for today. I wanted you to be able to set up classes and student accounts. I've given you 3 ways to do it. Hands off, hands on, hands kind of on with the class code, manual entry, and CSV options there. And then I also wanted you to feel comfortable working independently in Read Theory. Remember, at its core, Read Theory automatically assigns and adapts based on students' performance. And so really, once you get the account set up, your students are ready to go, which is pretty powerful, Okay, now it's the Q&A time. So the Q&A time is where I do my best to go back through the chat and answer any of your questions or concerns. A few things that I want to point out just before we really start this Q&A session is that Read Theory is an entirely free program. We do have some features that are only available to premium users, including some of the deep dive into reports and specific abilities that students have. If you are interested in premium, we have lots of different options available for individual classrooms, but the best deal is always going to be to connect with us, connect us to your principal to see about doing a larger licensing agreement for your school. Again, this is just for the additional features. At its core, Read Theory is a free program. Students have unlimited adaptive reading comprehension passages to experience, and you have the data that goes with that. And so just always like to say, if you are interested in some of the additional features, connecting us with your principal is the best path forward. Okay, so let's start by looking through the Q&A. Let's see. A lot of people really wanted me to make my screen bigger. So thank you. I'm sorry. I did the best I could. Are we able to change the way students' names appear? That's what Jim asked. As far as how students' names appear, really what I always like to make clear is that first and last name are fields that we need, not fields that we verify. You can put in any first name and any last name there. I know there's lots of data security concerns in the world today. So please, that's what I do. I never really input my whole student's name into online programs. I always use, maybe their first initial and their favorite color. But that's where you really have control over how student names appear. Good question. I've already answered. If students create their own accounts, you will always see their username and be able to reset their password. Stacy Roberts asked, what level will Read Theory start each student? So I did say it starts them at the 3rd grade level on the pretest, but that's just the first question on the pretest. If they struggle, they get an easier 2nd or 1st grade question as their 2nd question. If they do well, they get a harder 4th, 5th grade question as their next question. It is appropriate for grades 1 through 12 and beyond. The reason I say grade 1 is that students must be able to read independently, to decode words independently in order to use the site. And that's why I wouldn't recommend it for a kindergartner, because any assistance from a well-meaning teacher or parent, because our program adapts, it will mean that the student will get things that are harder than they are ready for. Great question. Can we change student usernames? That one, I'm not sure if it's a current ability that we have. I know in the past, this is something that we've been looking at developing. So I just want to I'm pretty sure the only way to modify a student username that's existing in our system, once you've created it or once they've created it, is for the student to log in and modify it from their own settings account within their account. Great question. What level will Read Theory start each student at? That pretest again starts at grade 3, but quickly adapts. Read Theory is free. Elaine asks, so the students only take one pretest in order to get assigned their reading level? Yes, one brief pretest. With elementary grade students, the pretest should take between 10 and 20 minutes. With high school age students, you can expect a 20 to 25 minute pretest just because they'll be reading slightly longer passages. So it's really appropriate, and the pretest experience will be different depending on their ability level as well. Stacy Roberts asks, can you run reports? Yes, absolutely. From the progress report screen, you can and you should run reports on your students. There are ways to export their data. There's ways to save it as PDFs. And these are all things that you can do to increase communication with parents about Read Theory, to send home reports. Yes, is the answer to the question. All right. Hannah Khaled asks, can we use it to upload materials? No, currently we don't have the ability for you to upload your own passages into our system. It's not something that is in our immediate plan for Read Theory at this time. Good question, though. How do you delete a class if you tried to start one at the end of the year last year? Now, this is Christy Frost. I guess it depends what you mean by delete the class. If you'd like to permanently remove the student accounts, you will need to actually send that list of student accounts to support at Read Theory for them to delete. Sending it in an Excel spreadsheet is the best, or letting them know which whole class you need to be deleted. If the accounts need to be fully purged. If you just want to have them not appear on your screen anymore, delete the class, remove the students, and all that can be done from the My Students and the My Class page. All right. Mary asks, can you print out usernames and passwords to distribute to students with manual entry? Yes, and actually these should be automatically sent to your email on file. Once you manually create, you'll get a password card for every account that you created. So you'll always have a record right there. Good question. What does CSV stand for? That is such a good question. Thank you so much, Linda. It stands for comma separated values. It's an early, very, very interchangeable with lots of different systems spreadsheet file format. That's it. So instead of saving it as XLS or as a pages file, you would save it as a CSV. Great question. Great question. All right. Jim asked, can we change what the student puts in? I believe he's referring to the username or as far as like the full name for a student there. With that, I would say that that has to be changed within the settings of the student account itself. So you'd have to log in as the student to make a change there. Abigail asked, ReadTheory is available around the world. Is it free for other countries? Thanks, Abigail. ReadTheory is available all around the world. We have so many different countries represented here today, just in this webinar. And yes, it is available all around the world with some aspects of the site for free. And the premium is also available all around the world. Great. Do we have Spanish materials? We do not currently, Carmen, have Spanish materials. Great. Patty Taylor says, I changed schools. Can I use my same username and password, but have different email? Yes, Patty, log into your account and update your email within the settings on your account. And congrats on the new job. Sue asks, can students access this from home? Absolutely. 24 hours a day. There's no like time wall that this is just offered in school. So it's a great thing to assign for homework if technology access isn't an issue for your students. Rashida asks, can I archive last year's classes so that I can create new classes for this school year? There's no formal archive aspect. You can rename the title of your class to be archived or previous year students. That's what I've done with some of my previous students. It also allows me to hand over year to year student usernames to new teachers. And that way they can track the data as well. Great. Jones says, when creating a class and selecting the grade, what can you do if you have more than one grade in a group? Great question. So something that I want to make clear, selecting that grade for the class does not actually influence in any large sense the types of passages they will see. The program adapts individually to students. And so I would choose whichever grade you have the majority of your students from. And it's also optional. You can just leave it blank. Thank you. Nina asks, is there any reading passages for grade 1 and 2 that are not able to read fluently? Our grade 1 passages are at very beginning level, Lexile level, around Lexile 100. They are not BR level on the Lexile system. So that means they won't have the repetitive sentence structure that you'll see at the very early kindergarten level texts of Sam is a dog, Hal is a cat, but you will see those shortened, very, very shortened sentence structure. So just to be honest, there you go. Sue asked, what reading level system do you use? We use the Lexile reading level system, but we also have charts available on our website if you go into our frequently asked questions to help with converting to different systems like Pinette or Accelerated Reader. So if you're interested in how our Lexile system lines up with your particular reading system, that's available in our frequently asked questions. Great. Let's see. Someone's written, because of privacy reasons, would it be an idea to enter a student's first names and the first letter of their last name? Yeah, and that's pretty much what I do for privacy reasons. But really, you'll want to speak to the people in charge of data security for your jurisdiction and see what they'd recommend. we do our best to protect all data on our site, and we view student data as precious. So please don't have concerns regarding our data handling. But, it's always good to check with what the rules are. Edna asks, are there articles suited to adult ESL learners? Edna, one of the really good things about the program is that it adapts based on ability. So if an adult ESL student is reading at the second grade level, they will read second grade level passages. These will be by nature more simple, and they may be below obviously their maturity level. But we have ESL programs all around the world that utilize our site with great success for their population because it adapts so well and because it's available everywhere on phones, ready to go. So definitely you should use it with confidence, knowing that you're not alone using this. All right. Let's see. Stacy asks, students can work on Read Theory from home? Yes, absolutely. On any device. We don't have an app, but anything that has a web browser that is up to date will be able to access Read Theory. Ms. Nelson asks, can we have access to this webinar? Yes, you'll be emailed a link to this webinar recording, and it'll also appear on our YouTube channel. Just type in Read Theory YouTube, and there you go. Donna asks, are there any plans to be able to upload students through Google Class? It is something that we're looking into. There are integration concerns and display issues that we're working through there. It's one of our longer term goals. It is not something that you'll see for this school year, though, for Google Classroom. Leslie asks, if I deleted previous classes, I still need to contact Read Theory to delete previous usernames. It's the best practice, Leslie, would be to send those usernames over. If you've already cleared them off and you don't plan to use them again, it shouldn't be an issue. They'll be automatically purged from our system after a period of inactivity. Abigail asks, what's the difference between free and premium? That's a large question. In general, you gain access to additional ways to utilize Read Theory when you have access to premium. This includes assigning specific passages to students. That is not something that is available in what we make available for free. Setting up large competitions. You can set recurring activities, but you have greater flexibility on how you set them up once you're a premium user. You have additional data that you're given access to on trends and what students are excelling or struggling with. That's only available to premium users. There are going to be specific holiday themed passages that are only available to premium users, and just a number, basically everything that we're working on in the future is likely going to be available to premium users and not necessarily to free users. But if you're interested in more about that, you should definitely check out my webinar on Monday at noon. Great. Do we have any resources for preschoolers? No, Read Theory is really appropriate for just for first grade through 12th grade. We don't offer basic literacy, basic decoding, phonemes, and phonics work, unfortunately. Adam Stein says, if we're manually creating student accounts and realize a certain student already has an account, I assume we'll get some type of error message. Really, if that's the case, that's a great, perfect scenario for just contacting support via the little chat bubble in the bottom right corner. We can square that away, no problem. You will get some sort of error message if their account already exists. Sue says, let's see. I think I've gone ahead and answered some of the reasons why you should get premium. At its core, what we offer for free is a fantastic program. There's no limit to the number of passages students can read, and and you still get access to excellent data. But that you are missing out on some additional features that would add value to your experience and to your students' experience, including competitions, being able to set really specific activities and goals for your students, diving deep into the data. So those are things that you're missing out on by not subscribing to premium. Let's see. So Teresa says, I teach high school special education. Students will start at the 3rd grade level on the pretest. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Sandra asks, if we decide to hide grade level information from our students, will teachers still have access to that data? Yes. Yes. Yes, of course. Of course, of course, of course. That would, of course. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Great question. I see so many wonderful statements on the chat about people who've used ReadTheory in the past or are excited to get started. Thank you. Thank you. We're excited to have you. And please tell others about us because we are a small ed tech company and we can only grow through word of mouth and through the passion and commitment of our users. I say small, we have millions of users around the world, but compared to larger giants with billion-dollar budgets, we are a smaller company. And so we really do rely on you to be our passionate ambassadors. If you're interested in being like a formal ambassador and potentially getting early access to features or maybe some ReadTheory swag, you can contact support through that little chat and say, hey, I watched a webinar and I want to be a ReadTheory ambassador. And we'll do what we can to get you into our system. All right. Can we use ReadTheory in class as technology is low at my school? What's wonderful about ReadTheory is that it can be used on any device that has an up-to-date browser. And so that's what I like to hit home. Tablets, phones, Chromebooks, all of it will work. All right. I think we are just about at time. So I will go ahead and just sort of say thank you again to everybody for coming to this presentation today. Don't forget that there is a Getting the Most of webinar that we're hosting on Monday. So please sign up for that if you haven't. But the big takeaways is that the free offerings of ReadTheory are here to stay. It is a truly wonderful program that I've used for a long time within my classroom, and I see great value in it. It makes differentiation easy for teachers, and that is helpful for everyone. So I hope today was useful and helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to support@readtheory.org, and we will answer your questions. You should receive a certification for CEU purposes, continuing education units credits, at the end of this presentation, and you should be able to view anything that you need to view. So thanks again for visiting us. I hope I see some of you on Monday, and thanks again.